Hey folks, it's Plain Jane here, and 4 months ago I quit my full-time job and became one of the work optional folks in the world. And now that it's 4 months later, we have gotten to the point where it's no longer just pulling from this checking account. We have hit the number at which I have to go into the savings account that we'd set up as our first bucket and pull money down from that. So that's happening next week. And that's kind of a marker for me of like, oh, this is really real. We're no longer relying on cash flow that's coming into our checking account on a regular basis and then just living off of that. But we're really living now off of the stash that we've been accumulating for the past 20 years. Given the recent news that's been coming through my LinkedIn, I really recognize how incredibly privileged we are that we've been planning for this for so long, that unlike so many people right now who are suddenly having to cope with no money coming into their checking account and scrambling for a new job, we are now thinking about, okay, which bucket are we pulling for? That being said, it's still really confronting to, after so many years of mostly putting money into these accounts, to suddenly be faced with the idea of having to draw them down. I've caught myself in some scarcity mindset thinking. So for example, I was going out into public transit to see a friend, and then on the way back, because it was more than 2 hours, when I tapped back on again, they charged me another $3.20. And $3.20 isn't really a meaningful amount, but I've gotten caught into this whole like, oh, like we only have a certain amount of cash now, and are we really keeping to the budget? I don't want to be like that, and so that's something that I'm certainly thinking about. I have this full Trello board of things that I should be doing, of ideas that I had of like next activities to do, and most of them, many of them cost money, and so I get all caught up in that. And this thinking has kind of infected my partner as well, so they were asking me about whether or not the budget was okay for them to replace their running shoes, and the running shoes are ripped. I've been asking them to be replaced for a while now, and obviously the budget has space for a new pair of running shoes for both them and for me. This is a requirement for our health. If we want to keep on doing our long walks, which we do, we need to get new running shoes. So I don't want us to be thinking about, oh, is this okay for us to buy the shoes this month versus next month? While I say that my partner has, been infected by this scarcity mindset of me thinking, oh, do we really have the money for X, Y, or Z? When we definitely do. It also did not stop them from buying some very expensive books from a small press run. So I guess they just really hate going shopping for shoes. I've been a little bit defensive about my lack of a side hustle, both here and in other places. I get very frustrated when all the people out there say you need to have a side hustle in order to reach FIRE. And I don't believe that that's the case, because obviously we were able to do that through a regular 9-to-5 job and just time. And would we have gotten there faster had we been able to set up a side hustle or some kind of side gig? Definitely. Another source of income would have gotten us here faster. But we also had to consider the trade-offs of time and energy, and I decided it was better for me to spend those things on a job that paid me well and to improve my career opportunities than to put energy off into a side hustle that might or may not pay off and definitely would take a lot of energy. When I switched jobs about 5 years ago, I started seeing that a glide path was more possible, that there were a lot of contract jobs out there where previously I'd only thought that people were really working full-time in my industry. And I started thinking about, oh, it would be great if for like a year, 2 years, 3 years, I was working part-time, I was taking occasional short-term gigs and doing that work at a fairly reasonable rate. And then after my last job, I thought, no, nobody's going to want me at my level to just do part-time. People are only going to want full-time. I don't want to do full-time. That's it. My stance on this has softened somewhat in the last little while. And moving from, oh, it'd be really nice, but it's not possible, to starting to articulate, what would be the type of role that I'd be willing to take or interested in taking, because it's not that I am required to take another job. It's whether or not another job would be a good fit for me and would give me more energy as opposed to taking energy away, whether or not it'd be worth it for me to trade some of my time for a bit more money instead of trading a lot of my time and energy for a lot more money. Because I think that if I just adjust the cash flow a little bit, it will really help with that whole scarcity thinking. And I wonder how much of these emotions around what's happening with the markets are influencing my desire for a part-time or contract job, whereas maybe back in November, I thought that I could do this totally scot-free. How much of this is the markets? How much of this is what everybody else says, which is that you start to think, oh, what could I be doing with my time other than what I'm doing? How can I have more purpose? But to be honest, it would be nice to have more income coming in so that I didn't have to worry so much about what the markets are doing. One of the nice things is that by articulating what it is that would be an ideal fit for me, I think, is that when somebody reached out to me and said, oh, well, we're kind of looking at this, is this the type of thing that you want? Then I was able to say, well, this is my boundary. I want this, but not this. And so I've put out a proposal for that type of work. I don't know whether or not it will be accepted. They're going to get back to me next week, but it would be really nice to have a bit more money coming in. While going cold turkey was harder than I anticipated, it also was really helpful in terms of recovery. 20 years of work is a lot to recover from, and I certainly have always taken my work home. I've always been rather more invested in the work than I should have been and worried about it more during after work hours, and that was helpful for me in one stance in terms of my career, but it certainly also had some long-term impacts that I'm still trying to recover from. It's a hard decision. Do I choose to trade some more of my time for incremental money? Do I have enough? Is my emotional state of not working more important than my emotional state of not having to worry about the money at all? I don't know yet. And so, yet again, this is one of the places where I'm going to go with the idea that we regret the things that we don't do, not the things that we do, and that we don't know what will really make us happy until we try it. So I'm willing to make an experiment and to see if something small contract will make sense for me. And if it doesn't, then I've learned something important. And if it does, then I have some more money, which is, I was going to say never a bad thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing, and obviously I want to stop being so caught up in the rush of money. Anyways, 4 months in, and I've enjoyed the not working part. I am still work optional, but maybe the benefits are starting to outweigh the costs. We shall see. Thank you very much for sticking around to the end. Like, subscribe, comment. What are you thinking about in terms of glide paths and side hustles? And just moving through that scarcity mindset once there's no longer regular cash flow coming in. Thanks. Bye. Nice enough that I will give up my time in return for that money? Not sure yet. Maybe this is a passing fad and I will feel different later. Maybe this is something true that I need to listen to. We will find it.